Before we get started, make sure you're wearing your headphones for maximum audio experience. Hello, listeners. My name is El,
My name is Ria.
and welcome to Rhyme and Reason Podcast. In today's episode, we'll be talking about how to take charge of your personal finances. But before we start the episode, I would like to introduce you to my new co-host, Ria. She is a student from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and a very good friend of mine. Welcome to the podcast, Ria.
Thank you, Anne. So, just to introduce myself further, I'm really new to podcasts, but I've been a fan of talking and conversation, and of course, writing. So, I hope in tonight's episode, I could also help the listeners find out more about financial stability, especially as a student. So,
Yeah, how are you today, by the way?
well, today has been very productive, but with productivity comes tiredness. I can't really describe how the day has been for me. It's a roller coaster ride, but one thing is for sure, as soon as possible, I want to end each and every task that I have so I could just rest, hopefully for the rest of the semester. Because we're already past midterm, so hopefully after that it would be a smooth
Hopefully, yeah.
ride. So, UP. How about you? How are you today?
Well, I'm great, but as I mentioned earlier before we started recording, my body hurts still, and I haven't been able to move properly, so that's been difficult for me the whole day. It's like I felt a nerve on my leg, my calves. Is that what it's called? My calves. It's like it feels like I bent something, and it's been hurting the whole day. So
Well, did you ask your parents or maybe search on the internet what possibly that might be?
searching on the internet, that's a bad thing when it comes to seeking aid for something like this. Because I've seen a lot of stupid remedies when it comes to these kinds of things. I mean, I don't know, but that's just how we've been taught by our parents. When there's something wrong with our body or there's a sickness that we are feeling, it's a bad idea to search it on the internet, right?
It's very important
yeah.
kasi to take care of our health now, especially at this time. So, whatever that is,
Yeah.
as much as possible, we try to find out so it won't hurt for the rest of our lives. Diba? Just as we should protect our hearts.
Oh, my hugot. But it's nothing Salon Pass can't heal. Yeah, power of Salon Pass.
I don't use Salon Pass. I'd rather use Vicks or, I don't know, Ficascent.
We use either it's Salon Pass or Omega, yung nakabote. And then Vicks, it's actually, come to think of it, we haven't used Vicks in so long.
Parang baho kasi ng Omega for me. I guess the most bearable would be Vicks. But Vicks, when you place it on your bodies, it hurts you somehow. Like it's cool, but when it's near the head or the eyes, it really hurts.
Yeah, of course, it's sensitive.
But
yeah.
most of all, I hope na you can get better soon because it's a struggle when part of your body is hurting. Sometimes it makes you unproductive. It just ruins the day.
Yeah, well, thankfully, my trimester has been done for about a week now. And yeah, I've been able to sort of relax. Sort of, but not quite.
Yes,
Yeah.
since you're a trimester, supposedly you're really taking the opportunity to rest.
Yeah, well, making modules isn't that easy. That's what I've noticed. I have to put a lot of effort, or I have to put more effort into making the actual materials for my lectures, because as some of you may have, as some of our the lectures that I have, because right, I mentioned that I have a class. I'm teaching 30 students with English because it's a program in UPOU, the Pahinungod UPOU Bridge program. So I'm one of the coordinators, and I help teach the kids through Zoom classes. So
But
in order for us to teach, we need to have a presentation.
so these kids, they are studying also in UP or they're choosing.
Well, they are potential UPOU students, but they're mostly grades 10 to 12. They're graduates from STEM and HUMS. So they're also from different schools,
Well,
not just UP.
so you're earning from this, or this is just a matter of experience?
No, it's an experience, and it's a voluntary work.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, it's
that's really
hard,
nice
but
of
it's
you.
fun.
Can't seem to put anything like that, especially for free in my schedule.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about. So, we're here to talk about how managing our personal finances, and everybody wants to be financially secure, right? A worry-free life. It sounds amazing, but how financially secure are you?
Not really sure. But as of now, to be financially secure, meron akong isang bank account. Although it's a joint account with my parents, so technically it's not all mine, but definitely they're giving money there just so I could have like emergency use of expenses or no emergency in case something bad happens, which I hope not. And then I also have a few writing commissions.
Yeah.
And those come to me when my friends just ask me to do some commission because they trust my writing skills. But apart from that, I think it's the fact of saving the money that I'm receiving for free. Like sometimes I have relatives who just give 1,000 for free and I keep that away from me. And I think I'm financially secure at that point because there are days when I just think I don't have any money with me and then I'm gonna find it in my bag. So somehow safe. But in a general sense, if we're talking about the future, how financially secure, I think like 50%. How about you?
Wait, before we dive into me, ang galing nun 1,000 for, well, it's just for free. They just give it away. There are no occasions. No, it doesn't have to be your birthday. It doesn't have to be Christmas. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's super random. Like some days, I'm just sitting there. I'm not supposed to receive any money. Then they're gonna come at me and say, "Here's 1,000." So I ask them, "Oh, what's this? Am I gonna buy something?" No, keep it. It's like there are days that they're kind. So
Wow.
I don't know if I should be secure about that because it's a random thing. No, parang hulog lang ng langit. So, but it's nice because
I'm gonna say the what line I don't like saying.
if you're not talaga, you don't do much expenses. Suddenly you're saving 5,000 a month.
Yeah, grabe lang talaga.
It's a rare breed, no? It's a rare encounter. Especially at this times, but like it's a bit of funny. Although I don't know what to say about that sometimes. How about you? Do you have?
Is that the perk of being bunso?
Not bunso. Actually, it's a low-key perk of being pangalan because they trust you. Like they know that you won't spend it. But the reason I'm not spending it is either I forget that I have the money sometimes or like I'm too busy. Telling you, being a scholar ng bayan, I think there's a reason for the scholarship. Hindi ka rin na mapagastos. Kasi wala talagang gastos. Kahit ikaw, minsan you forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you don't know how to manage time.
Yeah. Personally, I just have an emergency fund in my bank. So I got about 2 months of pay that's saved in case of emergencies. As much as I want to take it out to spend on, I'm not sure if you remember how much I've mentioned that I want to buy an iPad for,
A lot of times, yeah. So you mentioned that, I
for
actually
work
remember
purposes.
that.
And
They go, why don't you buy it then? Isn't that emergency?
I mean, as much as I want to take it out of the bank to spend it on the 2021 11-inch 512 gigabyte iPad Pro, and yeah, I have that listed down. I just can't because it's for emergencies, especially now it's COVID. So I really don't want to spend it unless I can replace it
Yes.
in due time.
Especially
So
at this time, when you still have a laptop, it's not necessary. Although sometimes
Yeah.
you think that it will make your life easier by a lot of percent, there is still something that stops you, especially at this time. So yeah, you just have to dream for it as of now. At least you know that if the time comes, you can actually buy it. You're just stopping yourself. And patience is a virtue, so.
But if anyone would like to sponsor, it's the 2021 11-inch 512 gigabyte iPad Pro, then, our Twitter account is listed in the
Suddenly
description
remember
below.
how people in Twitter go about and find their own sugar daddies and sugar mommies.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's weird.
But
So if anyone wants to sponsor,
yeah, I mean, I had to put it out there, So, we have a lot of viewers and listeners. So yeah, what we want for Christmas.
they still have how many months? About 7 to 8 months. Wait. Yeah, I get. Wait. I'm so bad at that. 7 months.
Well, here's something that I read earlier today. According to the National Economic and Development Authority website, I quote, "The Filipino mindset upon receipt of salaries, as commonly known, is that upon receipt of salaries, spending comes in before saving. What is left is saved. If there's none left, then there's nothing to save." End quote. What do you think? Do you spend before saving?
It's a bit true. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because of this is why I hate online buying. No, when you have the app of Shopee and Lazada, you're scrolling and then you just add a lot to the cart and the wish list. So when the time comes that you have the money, it's actually spending before saving because you have something in mind to buy. And that's true for Filipinos because I don't know why. Like in a general sense, most people, I mean, nobody can deny it. We try to earn to spend for something.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why you earn money is you want to spend it on something. And by the time that you have the money, the saving part is the least of your concern. Actually, you can change what you want to buy, but never change the perspective of actually saving it. And then when you buy, dun mo lang makikita na, oh shit, I should have saved it. Something like that. I think that's the reason why. I mean, that's on the level as a student. For a family here in the Philippines, especially in COVID, I think that only makes sense because having debts and basic necessities is what's most important. Like to live a day and not really thinking about the future.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for me. That's what that quote reminded me of.
It also reminds me of the meme that's been going around Twitter, the the Shopee discount, the 15 pesos off, and then the free shipping, or you get a 15 peso off voucher. Like it makes you want to spend more, right?
It's a weird sentiment of that too, like I don't know if it's the word free, but some people, just because it's free shipping and then it's 200, they think it's cheap. But when they want to buy another thing that's 100 but the shipping is 50, I mean, isn't that the same thing? It's really
pretty much the same thing. It's just
it's one of the it's one of how
it's marketing
our
skills.
Spending comes in weird ways. Like our perspective of spending money is very unusual, really depends on the person's goals and the person's needs, I guess.
Yeah, for me, I think I save before I spend. When I worked, I save before I spend because when I was working through the Burr months, I was saving up for Christmas and birthdays, right? I remember saving up money just to buy my ate a special cake because she was turning 20 at the time, and the cake cost about 2.5k. But this cake was customized, right? It had merengue, it had it had Ferrero chocolates on the topping, it had strawberries. So it was a customized cake by Yum's Creation PH. I'll put the description down below. And for those of you who are interested in ordering that cake, it was the number cake. So it was 2 and 0. So that was my birthday present for her on her 20th birthday. It was a customized cake, and the thing is, it wasn't that sweet either. I mean, it wasn't that sweet. It was.
I think that's good.
Yeah, like
Which is, I think expensive cakes aren't that sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But since you've mentioned it, like it's another thing of being a Filipino spender. I don't know if most of the listeners can relate, but here in the Philippines, when we're talking about family, it's like you can really spend a lot for them.
Yeah.
And by the way you described the cake, I could definitely buy something cheaper. I mean, for myself, I could definitely have something cheaper on my birthday. Kasi when you're the one being given the gift, like you'd rather spend it on something smaller so that you could spend more. Actually, it's not about saving. It's about spending it on more things. But then again, if it's really family, you have the sentiment of giving it your all. No matter how much you'll spend, because you think like you've really made someone close to your heart happy. That makes you happy.
Yeah, but you know what fucks up our savings? It's Christmas. You buy everybody gifts, right? For Christmas.
Gifts
You know, everybody
for
close to you.
Christmas.
I mean, that's
Honestly,
normal.
I'm not that kind of person. I usually write letters for Christmas. I don't really buy things because most of the time, especially for like common friends, I don't know what they want, and I don't want to waste my money either. So something tells me I should just play safe, not give them anything, unless of course they give me something. But most likely the people who give you something are the one closest to you. But when you talk about Christmas, Christmas is when we receive the most money, I think, especially for those working, because there are Christmas bonuses, and if I'm not mistaken, there's even 14th month pay. But it's also the time when you spend those immediately. Like, swerte mo na lang kung may umabot sa bagong taon kasi, I don't know, I think Ned is right. Yeah. You're spending before you could even save.
In terms of Christmas, guilty ako dyan. Because when our 13th month pay came, I remember I spent my whole break time buying gifts for people at home, family. So I think I spent around 4,000 to 5,000 pesos for everybody at home.
For your family alone?
Yeah. Well, my family alone and my 2 closest friends, So, I think I spent around 5,000, which was...
So how much did you actually receive that time as a bonus?
We were working on minimum wage, so that was... The 13th month pay was a total of 2 weeks worth of salary. Because I was a contract worker, so we didn't get as much as the regular employees. So I blew my whole 13th month pay on the Christmas gifts.
So by New Year, how much did you have? Were you able to at least put something in the bank, or did you buy anything for yourself?
I bought the only thing that I was able to buy for myself with what I've earned were its equipment and clothes, mostly uniform. I buy most of my clothing in Uniqlo. And aside from that, I buy knives. I try to complete the whole kitchen knife set. So there are like 23, if I'm not mistaken, 23 different kinds of knives. So I'm trying to complete that whole set, and I'm barely halfway through. Yeah, do you have like that weird
Well, you
hobby
know
or
what?
collection?
It's not really bad to reward yourself, especially in Christmas. I mean, for me, that's my excuse. It's your money, so you can do anything with it, right?
Yeah. Okay, but what's the most expensive thing that you bought for yourself?
Most expensive thing I bought for myself.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever spent too much on myself because I could say it's worth 1,200 because
Really?
I can tell you that medyo kuripot ako. So if I'm going to buy for myself, I don't really buy too much.
Really?
Just because, yun nga, sabi ko sa'yo kanina, I'd rather spend 1,000 on 5 things rather than choose one thing for that. And besides, as a college student, I'm still grateful to actually have people around me to buy the most expensive things for me. So what I bought for myself was something that I couldn't get them to buy me. Something for leisure, pleasure, guilty pleasure, and that's Starbucks. They call it again the planner. Yes. Actually, when I received the money I got from Christmas party, I immediately bought that. And since then, I was only in the 10th grade.
Yeah.
And then because I didn't know what to do with money, so spending it right after that felt really
It felt good,
really,
right?
it made me down because parang sayang yung pera ko dun. So like every time that I can see a very expensive thing, 1,000, 3,000, especially on dresses and clothes, I'd rather say not. I'd rather let my family buy that for me and wait. Because for me, I don't know, I don't want spending too much on things. I mean, could you imagine, like, I have a guy friend who bought his boxers brief for 5,000 pesos. I bet it's not the most expensive thing he bought.
Yeah.
Those things made me think, like, wow, I mean, would you really spend a lot of money for those? How about you? What's the most expensive thing that you bought?
The most expensive thing that I bought would be my iPhone.
Okay, wow.
I bought my, it's a second, I bought my iPhone 10 from my dad because he was selling it because he had the new version.
Wait, you don't get free? You don't get it for free?
No, here in our house, there's no such thing as free. Especially devices.
It's family?
Yeah. And clothing.
Oh my. Total opposite of mine. I could definitely take that for free.
It's like, for us, it's their way of disciplining us because, we need to learn how to save early on, right? So when we want to buy something, we need to save up for it, work for it,
Well, how much is the iPhone then, since it's second hand? So
I bought this for
I'm guessing
30.
30?
Yeah, 30.
30,000. You had 30,000 on your own?
Yeah.
So what was that? Like, wow, okay. Okay, maybe another thing, the reason why I can't spend a lot, because I don't really have that much money. I mean, wow, that's a lot.
Oh.
But at least it's worth it.
Yeah.
iPhone is worth it.
Yeah, I've had this for about 2 years now, and
you're using it.
Yeah. For everything.
For almost everything.
Yeah.
So it's worth it.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like, we need that iPad Pro.
Well, wait, how much is that iPad Pro again?
The iPad Pro is, if you purchase it using the student education system that Apple has, it's about $49,900. But if it's just the original price, it's about 52,000, and that's just the 512 gigabytes.
Well, this is another thing to think about, like when spending, diba?
Yeah.
Speaking of being financially secure, one thing you really need to know is what is the most important thing for you to secure for. Kasi diba you have the money. You have 30,000, for example, with you.
Yeah.
And okay, let's say 50,000. And then there's only 20,000 left. But then there are times when you're going to think, is it really worth it if I reach that goal, or should I stop here and buy something that is more accessible now? Is it what you're saying? I remember a cousin. He's a gamer, and he really earned money. He's really good. Like he did all the things that he could. He started a loading station in his school.
Mm-hmm.
He started to start art commissions, everything, just so he could earn money and buy PS5.
Yeah.
That's expensive, diba?
Yeah, very.
But then at the end of the day, it came to a point, remember, he thought, should I still buy it or buy something else before buying the thing that I could buy in the future?
Yeah.
So he stopped earning, and then he bought something, I think, lower than PS5. I wasn't sure because I'm not sure about the gadgets in gaming, but it was the portable one. So it's another thing to think about, like when you're buying stuff, like you could buy the MacBook, but then the iPad Pro is better, but you could buy the MacBook, only there are features that it doesn't have.
Yeah.
So it's a matter also of really planning, because at the end of the day, it's either you think of what is more accessible to what is more important. But I don't know. We have different opinions when it comes to expenses.
Yeah. Have you heard of Good Pods yet? It's a new app where you can follow your friends and influencers to see what podcasts they're listening to. So for all of you who spend too much time scrolling around trying to find a new show, this will solve your problems. It works really well. Just download Good Pods in the App Store, pick some people to follow, and invite your friends. They'll never be without a good podcast recommendation again. Also, don't forget to follow me. I have my own podcast, as you know, and I love to get and give recommendations for other shows too. Now, back to the show.
Okay, so speaking of the way you spend your money, I want to know what are your short and long-term goals when it comes to your finance?
Setting up goals are important. It's more important than checking your Twitter feed, I guess, as a way to compare it to. Setting goals sort of motivates you to work towards it in order to thrive, right, and be happy. So it's up to you whether or not you want to create a short-term or long-term goals. But be sure to make it as realistic and as practical as much as possible. Think about it wisely as you set it up. Setting up goals to save up for this amount of money in 3 months to, let's say, buy an iPad or save up for 3 months rent. That's sort of a short-term goal, right? So like setting up an emergency fund in case you lose your job, that's a short-term goal. Like be prepared for 3 months of living expenses without a job until you find a job within that given period. And long-term goals, for example, are saving up for, let's say, 10%, 15% months worth of salary to prepare for retirement or save up for a new home or something along those lines. One of my short-term goals is to, like I said, I'm saving up for an iPad. And aside from that, I'm also trying to save up for a car. So, unless my parents let me use my uncle's car, then I won't have to save up for it anymore, but we'll see. But long-term goals, I guess, not as of the moment, actually. Because I don't have a steady income, and the closest thing that I have to a long-term goal is investing into stocks. But how about you? Do you have short-term and long-term goals?
I like your suggestions to our listeners, because truly it's a matter of perspective. I mean, forgive mine, talking about long-term goals sometimes makes you too worried. And yeah, you have to consider your source of money, because if you don't have a stable source of income, then you might be stopping yourself from actually living in the now and buying those most important as of the moment, or giving the money to those who really need it now. So as for me, short-term goals, part of it is leisure, of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just think that I need this, especially in studying. I have to buy a book
Yeah.
for college. I have to buy these things, which is I could be organized. Definitely, those are short-term goals.
Yeah, they are.
But I guess another part of short-term goals is that, especially in these times, is to at least be able to share what I have. The one of the reasons why I also save money is to at least give something to my family or to those who are in need,
Mm.
because a lot of things are happening around us, and I'm actually taking BS social work
Yeah.
in UP, so
Ooh.
college reveal. But then one of the short-term goals there is to be able to help them at least, especially with their basic necessities.
Yeah.
So I think from there, I don't know, I'm not losing anything. And that's the fun part on living in the now, because the more that you give right now, you don't know how much it will return to you. And when you focus on short-term goals, it makes you see more of what you can do.
Yeah.
Like what I said earlier, you could set a long-term goal aiming for something so expensive you think will be very convenient for you, but if you choose something more accessible, you could look into more things that you can buy with the money.
Mm.
And then you'll realize that you've really spent it well. And I think that's what matters most, because we have to admit, as much as we want to be rich, the world does not revolve around money.
Yeah.
But being financially secure really helps you. I think for me, with that, long-term goals, if I have, okay, let's say I have a steady income, or of course part of it is, yes, investments. So that even if I'm not working, I could have some money
Yeah.
earning aside. Because an experience from a family that I know, father really put stocks on 7-Eleven, and that was way back the 1800s.
Mm.
Or wait, no, the 1950s. I'm so sorry, that's so old. But I think around 1970s or something. And then the stocks there was cheap by then, because I think 7-Eleven was a new franchise here in the country. And then now, I think they have about millions of stocks about to be taken out. Only if they have the right lawyer, as long as they have the documents. And that's really more long term. I mean, could you imagine how much you could use the 15 million right now without knowing that you're earning that? So investing is cool only if you know how to work with it. And then another thing is, of course, long-term goals are about settlement. This sounds cheesy, but of course, earning for someone, earning for your family, helping them like fulfill their dreams, or perhaps preparing yourself for the rest of your life, like literally the rest of your life. You know, by the time that you're resting,
Retirement.
you want to get this and that, but it's all gonna be happening when you're working already.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I guess that's one of the reasons most of us have our midlife crisis. But then, take one day at a time.
Yeah.
Take one step at a time.
I have a question. You have budgets, right?
Budget?
Yeah.
Something that I could use in every day. Something that I manage.
Yeah, because, creating a budget is one of the things that I love to do. Well, I used to do, because as some of you may know, I used to be a kuripot. Like, if you've watched episode 4, you would get what I mean. Like, I've had the kuripot phase. Anyway, budgets are important because it's sort of the most important step into being financially secure. Because, back when I still used to work in the restaurant, I would budget my daily expenses. So I would set aside 40 pesos every day for transportation, and then 100 pesos a day as a emergency for food. And all these expenses come from our tip jar in the restaurant. So above our minimum wage payments, we also earn from the tip jar. Like in every single restaurant, there's a tip jar. Everybody knows that. And remember, the next time you go out to a restaurant, leave a tip, because leaving a tip for the service or the food, it really helps us, the employees. It helps us financially, and it also helps the economy in a good way, and it feels good, right? So any amount of tip would definitely help. Do you have a daily budget?
Well, the way you describe budgets, it was easy when I was still going to school. And that's when the Kuripot me is very useful. Because as much as possible, like for example, you could walk, you're going to walk because transport is very expensive. But then budget in everyday life, as you said, it is important. As a student, it still is because, as you said, there are times when you need emergency money. There are times when you need to at least allocate something for the future use. Well, for me, I did have that. For example, they're going to give me 500 a day. So I'm gonna save something for transportation. Transportation should at least be the cheapest way possible. If it can, MRT lang yung gastos. Para yung iba, wala na. And then with food, if as much as possible, magbabaon ka. You know, just so you could save budget. And I wouldn't share my budget because it's a bit messy. As far as I'm concerned, I keep saving. I don't really have a specific amount to save, but now it's really important because if you come to think of it, it's about being secure, and calling yourself secure means you're doing something about it, like you're watching something and just watching your budget as much as possible that you want to spend and, you know, make yourself happy. Because some people find shopping as their way of relaxing or refreshing, or buying something makes them happy. But budget is really important because if you don't know how to budget now when you're young, how much more when you're older? I mean, seriously, it's like a habit that you can't lose if you get used to it. And then another thing about budget is finding a source of budget. Like what you said, when you're working, you get tips, you get your bonuses, and you get your salary. And that's another thing. At least in this time, it's really important that you find something because for students, walang pasok, so hindi daw nakakaipon. But there's nothing possible if you try to look for something. I mean, there's a lot of online jobs right now that you can find to help you at least make a budget. Because having money beside you makes you secure as well. And for some reasons, that's for me. Well,
as much as possible, try to budget when you go out. Pero grabe, nagkulot ako ng 500 a day.
I can't explain. Actually, grabe, marami pang mas worse sa 500 a day. Like, okay, this is a funny story. This is not related to... I mean, come on, like, I know rich kids who have 5,000 in their pockets. And then I know a friend, he was down that he left his wallet at home. And then, this is the reason why you should have a budget so you know what you're spending on. Kasi he left his wallet, but he has his car. So in his car, he has barya. He calls it barya. He calls it change. And then I ask him, oh, how much is your change? Maybe we could buy something cheap, like Pancit Canton, so we could save something for your gases or whatever. Then when he answered me, he said, okay, what I have here is, I don't know if it's enough, but it's 800. So I'm like, oh, I could definitely buy a lot of Jollibees right there. So you see, like, you know, another thing about being financially secure is different for each and every one of us. Like, it really depends on who you are.
It is. Do you use credit cards?
You know, I have a weird perception of credit cards because when you have cards, like, supposedly you have a card, you use it, and then you're gonna pay it for later, right? For me, I don't get it because, in my opinion, you could buy it and have the cash ready. So I don't use it. Remember, I
Yeah.
really do have,
See,
because you can't have a credit card if you don't have a stable income. And I think by the time I do, I'm not gonna use it
yeah.
unless it's really an emergency. Because as much as possible, I think I just like it's the same burden. And that's what you call spending before saving, huh? Because you're already spending with
Yeah.
it, so like you don't even save. Because when you get your salary, you know you have a debt on the bank already. But a lot of people find it convenient. Can you explain to me? Do you use credit
Yeah.
cards? Do you know the reason why most people want to use credit cards?
I mean, I get that it's convenient, but I don't use it. I mean, I don't
Right.
want to use it. I guess the closest thing that I could say that it's sort of a credit card is my Pay My account,
Yeah.
but it's not really. I don't think it can be labeled as a credit card, right?
I mean,
You still need to have the money in the account.
isn't like using debit card more useful?
Yeah, but I guess it's just parang nandedemonyo. It's because if the credit card, it allows you to spend a certain amount of money even though you don't have it, right? So it lets you pay it off later, either in full or in monthly installments, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess for them,
Yeah.
when they say
Actually,
it's convenient, diba?
That's why it's annoying for emergencies.
Yeah, it is. I guess it can be used for emergencies, but it's sort of like digging yourself a slow grave when you spend too much using the credit card and you don't notice it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I've seen a lot of people, have huge credit card debts.
Yeah, right? That's another thing that I don't get. Because
So that's what I don't understand.
that's why you really have to have stable income. I mean, that's another thing. I see people spending a lot when they have the credit card because they're going to pay it soon. But I think unless you're really rich or you have a very good stable income, it's not really fun. You can spend 30,000 now, but you're gonna pay
Yeah.
it later anyway. So like, it was a pleasure of shopping, but it's paying 30,000 for how many months? And I think banks also put interests or membership fees when you have credit cards. So
Yeah, especially if you haven't paid them. So I think there's an interest on
yes,
every single
it's another
purchase.
thing. That's why you really have
I
to know
think, yeah,
what it means to have a credit card, because the stores themselves have something with using the thing. Like, I don't know, there's always this percentage na magulat ka lang binabayaran mo na. Pero other people really find
yeah,
the goodness in it. Siguro kasi they want to buy this basic necessity, maybe for a business, like a capital, and then they plan. I mean, that makes sense, Pero I don't know. Usually, credit cards are used for,
yeah, and that has it. At least
for
it's
random
valid.
things.
Yeah, but those are for businesses, and those are loans, right?
Yeah,
It's not necessarily
loans pa yun.
used
Iba pala
by
yun.
credit cards.
So like, credit cards are really
Yeah.
for your everyday expenses, I guess. Pero
Well,
another thing about credit cards.
Yeah.
Because the other day I was able to be part of, they call this, I don't know how, I'm on business TikTok. Wait, no. Money TikTok? I don't know. Basta this guy kept talking about credit cards. Tapos parang yun nga,
yeah,
people are divided. Asians are divided on how good it is. Because there's this thing on credit cards. Kasi diba credits, merong privilege siya. Parang there are benefits at the end of the day. But then again, I don't know. I don't know, use credit. This is why when you're applying for credit card, try knowing what you're going to get with it.
yeah,
Ayun, yung credit score. So, I know you know credit score on games, but in real life,
Yeah.
credit score has this privileges. Well, I don't use credit cards, but here's the thing. Because I think I've observed it, and to all the relatives,
yeah,
when you take a credit card, you really have to know your privileges once you get it. Because I'm not saying it's real bad, but there are also good things that comes with it. It won't be hype as much if it didn't. but
Yeah.
I'm suggesting you look through on what you're getting and what kind of lifestyle does that card fit in. Kasi may iba't iba rin kinds ng credit card, even sa banks. There are this black credit
Yeah,
cards,
the
right?
color rankings.
There are this silver, gold, basta yun. And then you're going to receive depending. So if this is another part of the long term, as far as I know, you have to know what you're dealing with. Because some things, the privileges that you can get is like a free spa day. And that's another leisure. So like, I don't know, sometimes credit cards look to me as if they're expensive for the rich people only. Because it's up to you. I mean, depends on what kind of things you really want to do in your life. So
Yeah.
it's another thing.
For me personally, it's weird that they have a color system for credit cards. Like, is that the amount of money that you can spend?
It's like a membership or like taekwondo. Diba? Like, you're better in this. Tsaka parang I don't know though. Like, if you get the black, do you get more interest or less interest? Are you more VIP?
No, I think it's the amount of money that you can spend. Right?
Wait, yeah, you're right. I think it's the capacity that the card can hold. Like, it can hold 500,000 pesos or...
Yeah.
But it also shows how rich are you. Bragging rights. When you share fees,
and it has more.
This one is rich.
It has more benefits.
Well, that's a good talk about credit cards. But at the end of the day, it's all about being financially secure. I'm not really that experienced when it comes to money. I'm not gonna say I'm the best person to ask for about budget and finance because I'm not an accountant. I'm not an auditor. I'm not a financial advisor. But from tonight, what I can get is that when we're talking about financially secure, definitely the first step is talking about finance. So what do I mean by that is first looking with yourself, looking within what you have, looking about your resources, taking into account what you can do. And from there, once you have the money, you can then think of what you can do with it. And by thinking about that, you have to look at other factors. So you're going to get out of yourself and think about your family, think about what you want to achieve, think about what you need in academics or in career, and then from there, you could work on what is the next step. Since we're all newbies, especially if you're just a young adult, one thing we could do is, of course, do research to know more about these things and make sure what we're getting into. Because unfortunately, we didn't talk about this tonight, but there are a lot of scammers. There are a lot of people who just wants money. So as for us who has the money, we have to take account in every factor. So at the end of the day, I think that's part of being contented, being able to fulfill all your needs and spend your money right. Because that's one thing that could keep us going, because it's true that money is really needed in our lives. How about you, El? What can you advise our listeners?
The only advice that I could give is to invest early. Because if you invest early, then you would see how much it would pay off in a number of years. Like, what Ria mentioned earlier, they invested in 7-Eleven early on, back when it was just a small convenience store. And now they have 1 million branches everywhere. So, yeah, if you invest early, then you would earn more as time goes. Like for me, I've invested in a specific stock and I'm hoping that it would grow as big as I'm expecting it to. I'm hoping that it would sort of get as high as along there the top, Smart and Globe. So yeah, invest early when you can.
Yes, actually, just to add a bit on that, because we're talking about investments, as much as you feel secure on investing on franchises that are really popular, food chains or convenience stores, as much as I know, or as far as I know, usually these stocks, they don't move up and down much. So what you're talking about is the most useful one, where you can trust a small company and trust them to grow, because that can get you really into something. And being a part of this, the first investors, would really help you, especially in the future, especially if it booms. So I wish you good luck there, because that's a good idea.
But don't invest without doing research.
Yes, another thing is that
The research part is very important, because some companies have scandals that you may not know about,
and sometimes some companies aren't real.
Yeah.
And as much as you're concerned, if they do have scandals, I think your name is going to be with them. So really have to consider what you're talking about.
Just stick to your research and invest smart. Thank you for listening to Rhyme and Reason Podcast. You can support us by subscribing to our podcast in the Anchor app. The support for our podcast will allow us to produce more interesting episodes in the future. If you like that episode, please hit that like and that subscribe button if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below to let us know what you think about the episode. Follow us on Twitter by clicking the link in the description. We have a weekly Twitter space so listeners can share their thoughts and insights that they have gained from our podcast. We really love seeing your guys' support and receiving your comments. So if you have the time, do drop by. And who knows, you may just become one of our guests in our episodes. See you next time.